Okay, folks, we ready? TVs, you guys all set? Once again, good morning. Welcome to our complex here in West Palm Beach. Jim Crane has an opening statement for everybody, so without further ado, I'll turn it over to Jim.
Thanks, Gene. Welcome to the start of spring training. I'm going to go over a few remarks, and then I'm going to turn it over to our players, followed by some comments from Dusty Baker here. Last month, when MLB announced the penalties to the Houston Astros, I issued an apology to our fans and the city of Houston. I want to say again how sorry our team is for what happened. I want to also repeat that this will never happen again on my watch. MLB clearly stated that people leading the baseball operation and field operation should be held accountable for these actions, and I agree with them. Our GM and manager were not only suspended for a year, we went above and beyond and fired them. MLB also acknowledged that the players should not be punished for the failure of our leadership. The leaders enabled, condoned, and did not stop those actions that happened. I also agree that our players should not be punished for these actions. These are a great group of guys who did not receive proper guidance from their leaders. We cannot change the actions of the past, but we are fully committed and moving forward in the right way. I believe a big step in moving forward is with our new GM and manager. We have two men of great character leading our baseball operation. James Click and Dusty Baker will help our players and our entire organization deliver a competitive team on the field and continue our commitment to Houston and make them proud off the field. I'm very optimistic about this season. We have a great ball club, and I look forward to talking to you all about the future. Finally, I would like to personally thank all of our fans, sponsors, and the community of Houston for their loyalty and support. I will now turn it over to Alex, who will speak on behalf of the players.
Okay, Alex is going to give a brief statement, followed by Jose Altuve.
Thank you, Jim. I have some brief remarks that I'd like to share with you all. I am really sorry about the choices that were made by my team, by the organization, and by me. I have learned from this, and I hope to regain the trust of baseball fans. I would also like to thank the Astros fans for all of their support. We as a team are totally focused on moving forward to the 2020 season. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Alex. I also will be brief. We had a great team meeting last night, and I want to say that the whole Astros organization and the team feel bad about what happened in 2017. We especially feel remorse for the impact in our fans and the game of baseball, and our team is determined to move forward, to play with intensity, and to bring back a championship to Houston in 2020. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jose. Thank you, Alex. You guys can head back to the clubhouse. As I said, at 10 o'clock, clubhouse will open to me. You have access to the players. At this time, we'll open up the questions for Jim and Dusty Baker. Oh, excuse me. At this time, Dusty Baker has some remarks to make as well.
Thank you. You've heard from Jim, and you've heard from Alex, and from Jose Altuve, and I just want to say at that meeting last night, the players showed, tremendous remorse and sorrow and embarrassment for their families, the organization, the city of Houston, and for baseball. And I'm just want to ask for, the world, the baseball world, to forgive them for the mistakes that they've made. And we're looking forward to an excellent season this year in a great town. That's a great baseball town, and we want to bring a championship back. It was kind of a weird situation for me, to have to come into this situation, but I feel that, Jim Crane and the Astros felt that I was the man to try to take us forward. I've been through a lot of different changes in my life, and I think a lot of these things prepared me for, what we are to encounter, this year. I'm excited to be with these guys. They're a great bunch of guys. Like I said, they're together. They love each other. But again, they show tremendous remorse. And I was proud of them on how they acted last night and what we talked about. So I'm closing with that. Am I supposed to take questions now, or I can just sit down?
Okay, folks, we'll open it up to questions now. Please raise your hand, and Caroline and Chris will come over. Questions? Okay, right here.
Morning. If current reporting by Sports Illustrated and others is correct, and may have been a half a dozen other teams engaged in similar practices, does that mean there are another half dozen managers and GMs who need to go, or are you willing to take the brunt of this and try to move forward and let those other guys get off?
Listen, we're staying focused on the Astros. It's not my job to deal with those other teams. I'm sure the commissioner will handle that appropriately. We're glad to, if there's a silver lining here, we're glad to get this behind us and get spring training started, and we feel very fortunate to have Dusty and James Click here.
Okay, Tyler.
Jim, you mentioned right off the top there that the players, I think, did not receive proper guidance from their leaders, but the league's official report says it was a player-driven scheme. Do you think it was not driven by the players, or why do you absolve the players, it sounds like, of blame for this?
Well, the commissioner's report was very thorough, and they did a lot of work on it. Where the commissioner came down, which I agree with him, is that it could have been stopped, and it wasn't stopped, and people had knowledge of it based upon the report. So we hold those two guys accountable for what happened and not stopping that action.
Okay, another question? Raise your hand. Okay.
Mr. Crane, what do you have to say to the Yankees and teams that you beat in 17?
Listen, the Yankees have had a few comments out there. Our opinion is, that this didn't impact the game. We had a good team. We won the World Series, and we'll leave it at that.
Another question? Chandler, right here.
Jim, are you confident your team didn't use any wearable devices or buzzers during the 2019 season?
The commissioner addressed that in the report, and I'm confident it's accurate. I've discussed it with the players, and they've assured me that nothing like that ever happened. There's no substance to that whatsoever. And I believe AJ made a comment last night and cleared that up. I truly believe there was no buzzers ever, and I don't even know where that came from. So.
Okay, Mark. Okay, that's yours. Okay, right here up front. Okay, we'll go to Jeff first, and then over here.
Jim, when talking about the Yankees there, did you say you feel like this didn't impact the game? And what do you mean by that?
I didn't say it didn't impact the game. Basically, you know, as the commissioner said in his report, he's not going to go backwards. it's hard to determine how it impacted the game, if it impacted the game, and that's where we're going to leave it.
Okay, right over here.
Jim, after the Wall Street Journal article came out last week, it sort of painted another picture of the sign-stealing scandal also being driven through the front office. Have you guys had conversations with the front office staffers who are still here, who may have been a part of the scheme initially, and how can fans be ensured that everything is above board, considering some of the same folks are still around?
Well, again, the leader of that department has been fired. I've had some time to review the department. There will be some changes in there. As the commissioner said, he wasn't going to count the lower level people, hold them accountable along with the players. I agree with that. But we are reviewing the baseball operations. James Click and I will continue to work on that and put a structure together that we feel comfortable that this won't happen again in the future.
Okay, over here.
Kerry Sanders with NBC News. Was this cheating, and how does this reflect the feelings of the nation right now, where we see a corseting of rhetoric in this country, where people seem to want to win at any cost, even if it includes cheating?
Well, listen, we don't endorse the actions that took place. We've apologized. It's been tough on the team and tough on the city and tough on the nation. I don't disagree with that. But the only thing we can do is sit here and say we're sorry. We're going to move forward in a positive way. And you can count on us to be a positive force in delivering that message.
May I ask, is it cheating?
Excuse me?
Do you use the word cheating? Was this cheating?
We broke the rules. And you can phrase that any way you want.
Okay, over here.
Hi, do you believe that the Astros should still retain the 2017 pennant, despite the way that the team cheated?
Listen, the commissioner made it clear that we weren't going to go backwards. The championship would stay intact, and I agree with him.
Okay, Brian.
Jim, when it comes to the rule breaking, when do you believe that it stopped?
It's a little unclear, I think, from the report. From what I could tell, and I didn't do the investigation, that 17 and a little bit in 18, but clearly it stopped early on, and there's different opinions on that. And then early 18 it was finished, and there was nothing in 19.
Okay, Marley.
Thank you, Jim. To Jim and to Dusty. Jim, you know Carlos Beltran very well. You helped Puerto Rico after the hurricane and everything else. In the current reports, it says that he was the ringleader of all this and that the players followed his and didn't dare to question what he was saying. The Carlos Beltran that you know, do you believe that to be true? And I would, to Dusty too, because Dusty knows Carlos Beltran well.
I'll let Dusty go first if you want.
Well, yeah, I'll go first. It was a little disheartening, to hear some of the things that I was hearing about Carlos. I've known him from the other side of the field. I've known him as as a fine man, a Christian man at the same time. But I don't know if what was written is true or not. But we're all capable of wrongdoing at some point in time. And I just felt, like I said, I just felt badly. For Carlos and for the Astros and for baseball. I just hope that we can, put this behind us, and that we can go ahead and just play baseball and realize that we've made mistakes, and the guys have said they're sorry for it, and hopefully people will forgive us.
Okay, Hannah. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Carlos is a great player, and he had a great career, and hopefully he'll get past this. I feel sorry for him. I think he's made a statement in that regard. And the report's a report. Again, I didn't do the investigation, but he was named in the investigation, so you have to feel that that's accurate. So, again, Carlos had a great career. I feel sorry for him, and hopefully he'll learn from this.
Okay, Hannah.
Jim, you said the nefarious activity stopped sometime in 2018. Why? Did someone put a stop to it? Do you have any sort of particular understanding of when that stopped and why, and if that's true?
You know, I'm not clear on all of those details. Again, I didn't do the investigation, but you know, it appeared that, you know, baseball was enforcing the real rules stronger. They had people in the dugout, and for whatever reason, you know, it dissipated and was over.
Okay, right
here. Jim, the report from the commissioner pointed out cultural problems within the organization. Do you feel like those problems have been eradicated with the removal of those two gentlemen, or do you feel like that there's more work that you and the organization needs to do to improve the problems that the commissioner pointed out?
Yeah, he mentioned, you know, the culture in the organization. I don't totally 100% agree with that. I think we did have some problems. You know, as I said, you know, the leader of the organization that reported up into was dismissed. I think we have some work to do there, but I can assure you clearly, with James' help, and I will be more involved in overseeing it to make sure we have all the controls in place, that this will never happen again, and it won't happen again on my watch.
Okay, Joel, and then over here.
Jim, you've referenced, over here, Jim, you've referenced the report a couple of times. I believe the report suggests that A.J. Hinch was against this, what was going on, and that to some degree it was happening without Jeff Lunau's knowledge, and yet those two guys got suspended and ultimately fired by you. You empowered those guys, you hired those guys, you set the culture for the organization. Should you have been punished as well?
Well, clearly the report states that I didn't know about it. Had I known about it, I certainly would have done something about it. I did hire Jeff, and I think Jeff did a lot of great things for the organization over the years. You know, no, I don't think I should be held accountable. I'm here to correct it, and I'm here to take this team forward with Dusty and James. And as I said, it won't happen again on my watch.
Okay, ready?
Jim, could you discern from your meeting last night with the players how much sign stealing went on during the 2017 World Series, and do you feel a need to reach out specifically to the Dodgers in any kind of way?
I really don't have all of that information. I don't know that anybody does, and I don't feel it necessary to reach out to the Dodgers.
Okay, David.
Jim, obviously the title stands, but there's been plenty of people around baseball disparaging it. Your players who won the title have apologized for their behavior to get to it. I was curious what your view of that World Series championship is.
Well, everyone's going to have their opinion, and they're certainly welcome to their opinion. We have a good ball club. This is a team that's been put together and has won 100 games 3 years in a row, and hopefully 4, and be the first team to ever do that. We have a lot of talent on this team. Again, we cannot take back what happened. Our best move is to stay focused with these guys, keep them together. Dusty will do a good job at that and move forward. Everyone's going to have an opinion on it, and I respect their opinions.
Okay, over here.
Jim, everyone is saying how they didn't know and they would have done something if they had known, but there were a lot of rumors and other things written about the Astros potentially doing things like this before the article in November of 2019. So I'm wondering why it took till November of 19 for anyone to maybe take a real hard look into whether this was going on in the past.
Well, I'll keep answering it the same way because it's the same answer. The manager was in the dugout. He didn't do anything about it. And the GM, according to the report, had knowledge of it. I did not have knowledge of it until November. And so I feel bad about that. And again, it won't happen on my watch.
We'll go to Ken next.
Jim and Dusty, the meeting last night, who was there? What went on? How long did it go? What was the tone? Who led it?
Well, Dusty was in the back, and he was listening because I wanted to think I'll let him speak for himself in a minute. But listen, it was the first time we as a group were all together, and we wanted to just discuss it and hear what the guys had to say. And, you know, as a team, we moving forward, how we were going to handle it. So I think some of them were a little emotional. They're very sorry for what happened. I think you see that. And, you know, the meeting went about an hour, and, you know, I think everybody felt better about it. We want to get this behind us. Again, apologizing to everyone. Very remorseful, very sorry, and play some baseball.
You know, the guys that were there, to answer your question, were the guys that were on the team in 2017. And that's the first time that they've gotten together. That was the first time that I'd met a number of them, even though I'd met them on the other side of the field. How you doing? But that was the first time that we were in the same room at the same time personally. So, you know, it was a good meeting to get together with the guys, and anybody that's ever gone through the World Series realizes how short your winter is, and how private most of the guys remain during that short period of time, that your season is a month shorter than everybody else, at least. So it was good for everybody to get together. People ask why, you know, did you wait so long? That's simply because this is the first time everybody's gotten together since the season ended.
Okay, over here. We got time for a couple more, guys, okay?
Dusty, from the vantage point of your 40-plus years in the game, how different was this from everything you've seen of trying to get an edge, trying to steal a sign, trying to have an advantage? Is this beyond the bounds of what's allowed in baseball? Is this truly setting a new standard for misbehavior?
Well, you know, I can't agree with that. I mean, basically, because I really don't know all of the facts. You know, I just got the report, you know, the other day. But you know, I must admit, you know, when technology, you know, gets as advanced as it has become, then the boundaries have seemed to change. And so, again, you know, the guys said what they did was wrong, and hopefully baseball, you know, can help clean up the game and help control the technology so that this doesn't happen, you know, doesn't happen again here or anywhere else.
Okay, Scott, next.
Jim, Jose and Alex at FanFest clearly didn't show remorse. I'm wondering what's changed between that day and today, and were you disappointed earlier in the lack of remorse?
You know, a lot of the information was coming out very fast, and to be honest with you, you know, the guys weren't prepared. I mean, they just got caught off guard, and probably didn't handle it as well as they'd have liked to. But, you know, that's why we sit down and talk about it. And I think now that they've got to take a look at how everything went and what happened, I think you could see very clearly that they delivered that message.
Okay, Stephanie.
Jim, we've heard from a few players at this point, both players who are currently Astros and players who have since moved on, and they've apologized, and none of them have said, I didn't realize at the time it was wrong. They all knew it was wrong at the time. So I guess what I don't totally understand is why you're so willing to absolve them. I mean, of course, yes, the leadership didn't stop it, but they didn't stop a thing that the players were doing that was already wrong, that they knew was wrong. So I guess I'm wondering why you feel that's okay.
Listen, again, I'll refer to the commissioner's report. I think he's taken a position, and I agree with it, that, you know, the players weren't going to be held accountable. The leaders were held accountable, and that's where we're going to leave it.
Sure, but that's a logistical issue from his standpoint, that you can't punish the entire team. From the commissioner's office, I mean, the Astros have to be able to field the team this year. From your perspective, why don't you want to do more yourself as the leader of this team?
I think I've done just about everything I can. I mean, when the commissioner suspended the people, I fired them.
But again, that's the leaders. I'm asking about the players.
Well, you know, the commissioner has dealt with the players, and I stand behind his decision. I'm not trying to hide behind the decision. I agree with the decision. So we're not going to do anything to the players.
Okay, Joel right here, and then Marley.
Jim, you and the others who are associated with the 2017 team have suggested that the championship isn't tainted, that you would have won it anyway. this was not a scheme that was done one day or one time. It was done hundreds and hundreds of times, and there was an attempt to do it in the 2018 season, which suggests that you guys believed it was working at a very high level. Doesn't that suggest you impacted lots and lots of games, and if you impacted lots and lots of games, won a championship because of it?
It's a fair question. I've stated, where the commissioner stands on this. I've stated where I stand on this. Your question, you could make that assumption very clearly. Everybody would kind of make that assumption. To determine the effect and the cause is, in my opinion, almost impossible. So, again, we've dealt with it. We've said we're sorry. We're moving forward, and we're going to play some baseball this year.
Okay, last two. We got Jeff and then Marley.
Jim, considering that this happened on your watch while you were owner the first time, what makes you so confident in saying this will not happen on my watch?
Well, first of all, we'll have better controls in place. I think baseball will have better controls in place. As Dusty said, the technology got very close to the dugout. That could have been part of the reason. Listen, I don't go down to the locker room very often. I'm not involved in that operation. The people I put in charge of that operation, I'll make sure that I have someone that's accountable moving forward, and we'll be checking constantly. And we'll have controls in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. And again, if I'd have known about it, I'd have done something about it. But I'm not in the locker room. I'm not down in the dugout. So it was very difficult, and I didn't know about it until November, just like you guys. So that's where we'll leave it.
Okay, last one, Marley.
Jim, sign stealing is a distinct advantage for the hitter. So how is it that it doesn't affect competition? So then what are you guys apologizing for?
We're apologizing because we broke the rules.
But isn't sign stealing a distinct advantage for the hitter, so doesn't it automatically impact competition?
It could possibly do that. It could possibly not.
Okay, guys, we're going to wrap up. Thank you, Dusty. Thank you, Jim.